What's up, everyone, and welcome to Moony Talks, the number one podcast in the world, according to my mom, and a place where we dive into dentistry, health, and everything in between. If you're new here, hit that follow so you don't miss new episodes every other week. And if you've been following for a while, first of all, thank you. Second of all, share it with a friend, a classmate, or whoever needs a little inspiration today. All right, let's jump in. Today's guest is someone who truly understands the business side of dentistry and helps dentists take control of their financial future. He's a certified financial planner, chartered life underwriter, founder of the White Coat Financial, and known to many as a dentist advisor. He helps dentists with everything from investing, insurance, mortgages, and taxes to practice purchases. And fun fact, he's also a new dad. Please welcome Gurtej Warren. Please tell me I said that right.
Yeah, you got it right, man. Thank you. Thank you. If you want to make it easy, you could call me G. My wife calls me G. My friends call me G.
Perfect. I love that. I love that. Okay, G it is. Now, G, congrats on being a new dad. Tell me, how has that been? Your day is ending right now at 10 p.m. too. How has your day been like? How is being a new dad?
I'm in Vancouver, so I'm 3 hours behind you, which is like, it works perfect. It's funny because you probably thought I'm in Ontario. Everyone
Yeah.
thinks I'm actually based out of Vancouver, but our firm is Canada wide. So we help
Okay.
clients from coast to coast. And funny enough, I think like at least half of my clients, if not very close to half, are actually in Ontario. So it
Yeah.
makes sense that everyone thinks I'm in Ontario. But
Oh my gosh.
back to your question of a new dad, it's hard to put like words to it. Every time someone asks, I'm like, it's everything. It's the most beautiful thing. It's like the most frustrating and exhausting thing. Anyone who's a new dad or mom, and they're gonna get it. Like it is every emotion you could think of, kind of wrapped up into one. But fundamentally, it's been a beautiful experience, and probably so far it's only 8 weeks in, but like one of the best things I've ever done in my life.
Yeah, no, I can only imagine, man. My brother-in-law and my sister, they have a baby niece for me, and she is like 4 months old, and everything she does, I'm obsessed with. It literally, they can send me a video in the middle of a brutal day in dental school like today, and it'll just refuel me for another 4 days like this. Like it's insane, and that's not even my kid, right? But it feels like my kid, but it's not even my kid. So I can only imagine. But I also see the amount of sleep they get and how hard it is and the work. Kudos to you, because if you guys haven't noticed, or if you guys don't know about G, you can see that he doesn't stop on social media. And today we're going to be going into pretty much everything that he dives into, as well as some questions I personally have. We're going to be talking about money, saving, spending, investing, and the future of dentistry. So I just want to start by asking you, G, let's say you're in my shoes, a dental student staying at home in this case, and I'm at my mom's house. I'm still in my parents' house. I'm not touching my full line of credit, and I am saving like a bit of it here and there compared to other out of province or people who are not at home. What can we actually do with that money? Like, is there a smart way to invest early, or is that too risky? Is there a way to make that money work for us before graduation, or should we just sit tight for now?
Honestly, such a good question. And obviously everyone's situation is a little different. Like I've done talks at dental schools, and when I was early in my career, I used to make the assumption that everyone was a broke student. I remember one girl coming up to me at like the end of the class, and she's like, "Oh, so like my parents kind of gave me an early inheritance. I got like $3 million in my bank account. What should I do with it?" Now, this was an anomaly.
Yeah.
There's such a wide range in dental school. You have some people who literally like had student loans from undergrad, and they're like their line of credit is tapped by the time they get to like, their final year of dental school, and like paying the CDSPI malpractice insurance is a struggle for them. And then you have all the way on the other end where someone might have an early inheritance, or their parents had them on payroll at their dental clinic the whole time, kind of
Hmm.
thing. So there's quite a wide range. So like I would say the average dental student is probably similar to your shoes, where they have a line of credit. Maybe it's fully maxed out, or maybe they're getting close to it, where they do have a decent balance. First thing you're going to want to do in dental school is talk to CDSPI, get your disability insurance in place. That's like the first thing you want to do. Yes, you're not working yet and all that stuff, but the hardest thing with disability insurance has less to do with how expensive it gets. It's mostly to do with the fact that your body is going to wear and tear. And that's not even in like the traditional sense of dentistry. It is a young man's sport or young woman's sport. Your back's going to get messed up, your hands, your neck, all
Hmm.
of that, right? Like, you're in the
Hmm.
ringer for it. But like you could have minor things that pop up while you're in school, car accident. Now you got to go see, a chiropractor, whatever the case is, and your back's hurt, and all of a sudden that could be an issue. Or I've had like clients who, because of stress of exams, got like a lot of acid reflux and GI issues while they were in dental school, but they were fine after. But now all of a sudden when they apply, they have that exclusion on their policy or
Hmm.
whatever. That's like
Hmm.
the easiest, lowest hanging fruit. The next thing is assuming you don't have an income at all. It's like, yeah, you're living off of your line of credit. should you be investing that? I would say no, professionally speaking.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I've had clients who've done it. I had a client who, during the pandemic used his line of credit and bought Tesla. And like, he might be a millionaire as of today, just off of that, right? And so it's, yeah, you have people who do that, but like, what if it didn't go well?
Mhm.
What if they just picked the one wrong investment or whatever the case is? Even if it's just like index funds, like, yes, it's a way safer investment, but what if the market all of a sudden crashes and you're finishing school and you're down 30% just because we're going through a recession or something like that? So I'd always say don't use your line of credit and invest. The only thing I would probably be okay with for a dental student is like if you want, you can withdraw maybe 8 grand out of it and use the FHSA while you're in school. Uh,
Mhm.
HSA being the first home savings account. If you're not someone who already owns a property, and your name is not on title of a property, like sure, you could use the FHSA, withdraw 8 grand a year. The interest on that is not going to be a lot. You could put that into like either a high yield savings account, a GIC, maybe even you put that into like an index fund or something that fits your risk tolerance. And you could do that for 4 years so that by the time you finish school, you're close to, the limit. You got 32, 40 grand inside of that FHSA. And the beautiful thing about this is you have no income in dental school. So you
Yeah.
don't write off 8 grand while you're in the schooling. You just carry forward those contributions or you carry forward those deductions, to say it more accurately. And then in your first year of practice, you got a $40,000 tax deduction that you could claim
Wow.
because you made those contributions before. And now all of a sudden, maybe you don't pay any income tax for the first 6 months of working or something like that. So I would say probably those are the two main things you should do. I'm sure I can extrapolate more, but those are
Yeah.
probably the first two things I would do.
Yeah, yeah, no, 100%, and but just speaking to the whole injury thing in dental school, it's ha like, you always think it can't happen to you. In our class, thankfully, it wasn't a major injury, but somebody was in a car accident, sure enough, and their thumb was out for a bit, and it affected them. They ended up having to remediate an exam. My sister's year, somebody got in a major accident during skiing, and they ended up suffering, like they almost repeated the year, right? And I don't know if they had disability insurance before. I know my buddy in my class did have disability insurance before, and it's with the CDCPI, or I forget what it's called. CDSBI, and it's that free one. But so when I'm trying to plan as a dental student here, I'm thinking, okay, I want to build a lifelong partner. CDSBI is like offering this free like it's like this free life insurance and free disability insurance that you just have to essentially sign as and when you're a student, it's free. But it's sometimes it like I wonder if it's holding me back from meeting with other insurance companies and maybe building a more long-term relationship with them and like or if it's transferable. So for example, whatever my disability state is at the point of with CDSVI, it would be transferred to if I switch to a different insurance broker or whoever it may be.
Yes. I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this, but I don't know how long I don't think you're on my email list, but
Mhm,
I sent out a big email about this back when Canada Life sort of got rid of famously their on occupation feature. I believe it was last year in November. I, since that date, have not done a single disability insurance policy for a client. It used to be like a third of my income. I no longer do disability insurance because CDSPI fundamentally offers a superior product than
mhm,
anything I, as a mortgage broker, or sorry, insurance broker, can offer to anyone. So I have access to everyone. I get paid commissions if you need insurance. And I'm like, hey, you should go to CDSPI. The reason being they're the only insurance company in Canada right now that offers own occupation disability to dentists. If you're a
mhm.
physician, or I'm assuming everyone who listens to you is a dentist, but like
Yeah.
if you're a physician and all that stuff, this doesn't apply to you. If you're a dentist, they're the only ones who do. If you're in specialty practice, yes, you could still get a policy that's private through RBC or Canada Life that'll give you the own occupation feature. If you're a general dentist, you're not getting that with Canada Life. You're not getting that with RBC. So CDSPI is your only option. And every insurance broker out there, you know them all. They come to the schools, they do the talks. They're going to tell you CDSPI is not a good product because the coverage, Manulife and CDSPI can end their relationship,
Mhm.
or they can increase the cost of the premiums in the future. I'm a psychopath, and I decided to read the CDSPI actual insurance policy, the thick old booklet,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
could do it offline for you. I could literally send you the paragraphs in the policy that say that's not true. So it's one of those things where it's like, well, who are you getting your advice from? And if your relationship with someone is based on them selling you a product, it's not a relationship. You are the
Mhm,
customer.
mhm.
It's not an ongoing relationship because again, I don't want to start the podcast with bashing people, but it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
sure if you talk to any dentist who's been practicing for a few years, the relationship with the insurance advisor, if that's what they are, goes as far as, "Hey, I have insurance I need to buy." They sell it to me, and then I only hear from them when it's time to increase my insurance or buy more insurance. There is no relationship in
Yeah,
between.
yeah, of course, of
Um,
course.
and that's not a criticism to them. It's just more so I don't think CDSPI is gonna limit your ability to work with an advisor or a financial planner. I think they're great at what they do, and technically, I guess CDSPI is a competitor. I don't really view them as one. I'm like, "You guys offer a great product." They have group buying power. I think dentists should be going there. Now, if you have an existing policy from Manulife or Canada Life or something from the past, don't go and cancel it. It's just any of these newer guys who are coming up, you don't have those options that, your predecessors had. So CDSPI, in my opinion, is just like the way to go, unless you're specialty. Specialty,
Yeah.
different story.
And so with this, and just for people who don't know what own occupation, like what is the importance of that? What is that? Like as compared to if you don't have.
It's the most important feature of the disability insurance inherently. Like there's other features like the future income guarantee and cost of living adjustment and return of premium and all these other things, the retirement protector. But own occupation is the most important thing. Essentially, in like plain English, it means if you suffer from a disability that prevents you from working as a dentist, you can receive your disability income and then still go work in another profession.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I have a client where this happened. He can no longer work as a dentist. He runs a clinic. He's still paying himself as a treatment coordinator. He's still
Wow,
making
okay.
money from his dental clinic. It does not impede on his ability to earn his disability insurance because he's no longer practicing as a dentist. That's a more extreme example. You could go and become a professor. You could become a real estate agent. You could become whatever you want to be after,
Yeah.
and still receive your disability income. It is like the most important thing to me when it comes to getting coverage as a dentist because it's a physical job. You mentally might still be able to work. You could like have arthritis in I don't know, I know arthritis doesn't work like
Yeah.
this, but in one
Yeah.
hand and still be fully functional as a human and be able to go do another job. You just can't do
Of course.
dentistry.
Of course. Now, G, before I move on to the second question, is this what the white coat? Because I've seen that you're the founder of the White Coat Financial. Tell me a little bit more about that, where people can check that out, and what types of information people can find from that, or your different avenues that you have offered to students, to dentists, etc.
Yeah, White Coat Financial's like a firm that I started, and we're a multi-specialty financial planning firm. So we handle your investments, so we'll manage your portfolio for you. Or honestly, if you don't want anyone to manage your portfolio for you, we will show you how to do your own. We're probably the only firm who's like, hey, if you want to self-manage, I'll just help you set up your portfolio. Or if you want to be hands-off, we'll do it for you. We handle all of our clients' insurance needs, so disability, critical illness, life insurance, health and dental, health spending accounts. We'll handle their mortgages. So if you want to buy your first house or a rental property or a commercial property or the unit that your dental clinic operates out of, I can act as a broker and shop your file around at any bank that I want to. And then we offer financial advice, obviously above and beyond that, which is really where I spend my time on
Mhm.
the advisory side as well as the clinic consulting side. So if clients want to buy clinics, I'm very involved in the process of deciding is this clinic a good clinic to buy? Does it make sense? What's the break even? I'll run those projections. I'll build the business plan. Half the time I'll submit the LOI for you. But the reason I say it's multi-specialty is I don't obviously do all of that. There's
Yeah,
only
yeah,
one of
yeah.
so we have an investment specialist, an insurance specialist, and a mortgage specialist, and I'm sort of like your wealth and consulting specialist. But that's in a nutshell what White Coat Financial is.
Amazing. Yeah, because I know the one thing that overwhelms me, and I know many other students, is that and just so everyone knows, I have no final financial like interest with G or anything like
This is
that.
the
Like
first
this.
time we're ever talking. Yeah.
Exactly, just as if it wasn't like that, just to be clear, but one thing that I know a lot of students struggle with, and that I personally struggle with, is like, okay, okay, now I need a mortgage broker, now I need an insurance person, now I need a lawyer, now I need an accountant, now I need so, is something like the White Coat Financial, how could you like, what is the name for that? Like, something that is it a White Coat Financial something that can consolidate all of that into one, so to speak? And what is the name
Yeah.
for that type of business?
Traditionally you would consider this more of like family office style financial planning. Family office being someone who is really, really wealthy, has an entire team of professionals that work just for that one client. Kind of that's kind of
Mhm,
what a family office would be. We've thought like if you think about it, as a dentist, you have an insurance guy. Sometimes your insurance person also does investments sometimes. And then you'll have a mortgage person and then you'll have like your tax person and then your lawyer. the idea here was to just bring it all in-house, which is what White Coat
Exactly.
Financial is, my firm, is it's just like I run it, I do the advice and advisory and consulting, and then we have an investment insurance and mortgage specialist in-house. It's not like I refer you out to some other company because it's
Mhm,
the same thing in dentistry. The moment the patient leaves your walls, you do not have control over what their
mhm.
experience is. And not to say that other people aren't gonna do a wonderful job, I'm a control freak. And I was like, I want all of my clients to have a fantastic experience that's seamless. I also have found it improves, like, to use your guys' language, it improves predictability of outcomes. It improves the patient experience because you have multiple lenses. I always give this example. It's like imagine having a endo, an ortho, and a perio, and like let's say a prosthodontist working at one practice, and you sit in the chair as a patient and you have four specialists doing treatment planning together. Or you maybe
Amazing.
have the prosthodontist who's quarterbacking the treatment planning and be like, hey, this is the ortho side of things. This is the so I always joke with clients, I was like, my role is like a prosthodontist. I
Mhm.
used to say general dentist, but now that I have clients who are prosthodontists and I really understand what prosthodontists do, I'm like, that's kind of what I am. And then
Mhm.
you just have multiple specialists in one practice. And it just I found that with clients, they just like it because they don't have that overwhelm. They talk to G,
Yeah.
he and his team handle the whole thing. I don't got to worry about it. The only thing we refer out, so to speak, that goes out of our walls, this could be like your oral surgeon, maybe. It's like you go to your accountant to file your taxes and you go to your lawyer to sign contracts and that
Of
kind of thing.
course. Yeah, yeah.
Even your
No.
accountant, we do a lot of the tax planning. We will do a lot of the forward-looking strategy of, "Hey, here's how we're gonna operate and structure things." They will be the ones who kinda just execute, "Okay, we're gonna file the taxes this year." That's kind of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No.
Long-winded
100%.
answer is what you're gonna be used to with me, but that's
Yeah.
kinda how structure is.
No, I appreciate it because seriously, it's such like a it's so this whole side of the business of dentistry is so intricate and like I'm this next 4 years is my whole goal, and I think a lot of dental students' goal is to understand it as best as possible because we know we're not going to be educated on it as much as we maybe would like to be, or as much as would make us prepared for when we're in the real world. So this is exactly what we're looking for. So now transitioning, I want to hear when we are in the real world, what is something from your experience that like, what are the biggest mistakes, financial mistakes that dentists make right after graduation, soon after graduation, or overall in their career?
I'll give you 2 prongs to that. Uh,
Mhm,
there's, like, the technical side, which I think everyone kinda knows, which is, like, the lifestyle inflation's gonna be there. You
mhm,
know, you go get a brand new car, you get the nice watch, you know your lifestyle's going to go up because you're also in a situation where you're like, "Okay, I'm what, 24, 25, maybe," everyone's a little different when they graduate. My friends have gotten jobs and they've been working for a while, they've got their nicer car or whatever the case is, and that line of credit's just sitting there and, like, I can use it, and I'm gonna know that I'm gonna make a lot of money in my career, I might as well enjoy myself while I'm young. I'm not even opposed to that, but just do it within reason. My big, like, rule of thumb is, like, if you're gonna go have a big purchase, just make sure to have a payment attached to it. I just hate financing and leasing cars, and I hate, anything that's got a payment attached to it. You want a Rolex? Sure, go knock yourself out. Just don't go crazy, you know, lifestyle inflation is the biggest mistake people make early.
mhm,
The
mhm.
next one I think is like just doing things that don't make financial sense for them, which is like they go and buy like a like a house maybe, and they maybe don't even need it. They buy a house, they go find a job elsewhere, they limit themselves from a dating standpoint, from a
Yeah,
job standpoint. It's like you've locked yourself into this one area, and even if you wanted to sell it, you got land transfer tax, you got realtor fees. Like real estate's not a liquid asset, so it's like sometimes it doesn't make sense to buy a house right away. Sometimes incorporating too early, incorporating too late, not focusing on paying off debt, or investing in like really risky stuff. There's so much stuff that people can make mistakes on. I think the biggest thing though, honestly, is people not being clear on what they want and why they want what they want.
mhm.
Um, Financial advice when I'm talking to someone is so catered around like, you ever watch The Notebook?
Yeah.
Okay. I have not watched The Notebook, but I've seen the last scene where it goes like, what do you want? Right? When I have my first call with a client, that is like half the conversation. What do you want out of life? It's
Yeah,
like, forget the money for a second. What do you want your life to really look like? Okay, and what do you value? Do you value a more modest life and, quieter life, or do you like the finer things in life? Like, you got to really get clear on what do I want and then why do I want it? Am I doing it to impress my friends? Am I doing it to take care of my like what is it? Because every financial decision or mistake is usually not the mistake in and of itself. That's like a byproduct or a symptom of it. The root cause is typically, I want this thing, and the reasoning for it usually isn't in alignment with sort of what it is. Like, I'll use cars as an easy example. I know nothing about cars. I don't even know how to change oil. I'm literally like useless
Same.
around cars. I go to the, like, mechanic and I get fleeced every time. Like, I get every upgrade that they tell me to. My oil changes are like almost $1,000 a pop because they're like, "Oh, you need a filter and you need this and you need this." I'm like, "You're the professional. I know nothing about cars." I will probably never drive a really nice car. That's not because I think they're stupid or whatever the case is. I just don't value it enough to spend money on it because I don't know nothing about it. And I don't care what someone sees me in. I will happily drive a beater. Frankly, I Uber most places because I can't stand to even sit in the car and drive. I'm like,
Mhm.
20 minutes, that's 20 minutes. I could have taken a nap. So I'm like, I will Uber everywhere.
Yeah.
I have clients on the other hand who love cars. They love everything about it, the new smell, the engineering, the steering wheel, the whole thing. Go ahead and spend the money on the car then if you value it that much. And so for me, it's like it comes down to what do you want? Why do you want it? Are you buying this thing to show off to other people so they think you're cool? Or are you buying it because you genuinely love timepieces or you genuinely love going on vacation? Or I just want to post it so it looks like I'm doing something.
Yeah.
I feel like all the mistakes stem from that. So I'm like, I think that's the big mistake. Get clear on what do you want? Why do you want it? Then it's a lot easier to decide, what you should prioritize financially.
Yeah, absolutely, and so I'm writing down right now, no Lambo right after graduating, so that's out of the
Yeah, yeah,
picture.
not right away. Yeah.
No, 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 100%, and honestly, you touched on so many things that I have written down here to ask you about. I like Yeah, instead of dwelling on, I wanna ask these questions because I'm very curious. The one thing you touched on was, for example, people who go maybe they isolate themselves, something more rural, for example, purchase a home and whatever it may be. Now, outside of the purchasing the home and all the issues that come with that, I wanna hear about I wanna hear what everyone's thinking about, and that's how much do dentists actually make? I'm second-year dental student at this point, and I don't know. I'll tell you what I've heard. I've heard everything from 400,000 to 600,000 in rural areas as associates in your, like, 1st or 2nd year, doing whatever, and you're the only person in, like, the middle of nowhere, 5 hours away from, like, the nearest hospital or grocery store, to around 200,000 in places like London, Ontario, as an associate being, like, really good. Is this true? Like, I have a follow-up, but, like, what is the money of dentistry? What does a dentist make in London, Ontario? Compare that to rural. What is the upper end of an associate in the graduating year? And is it even worth it to go do that rather than building a foundation for practice ownership in your own city?
I'm so glad you asked because every client, when they first meet with me, there is a undertone of them wanting to ask that question, but most don't because it's taboo or whatever. And I'm like, ask me because I'll openly talk about it and I'll tell you what everyone makes.
Yeah.
Obviously, not individual people.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll tell you what everyone makes because you can't go and ask your buddy, hey, how much do you make? Societally, it's not a thing we do, right? I'll break it down to monthly. I mean, I'll break it down to how you scale up. I will tell you right now, if you are in the GTA and you are assuming everyone's working at least 4 days a week, at least 4, let's just call it 4. If you are making less than $15,000 per month after your first 2 or 3 months, something's wrong, either with you or the clinic. Maybe your hand skills aren't there, or something's up with that clinic and they're not giving you the types of treatments you want. I don't think it's worth doing this grueling trek that you do to get to, like, going through dental school and becoming a dentist to make less than 15 grand a month. I would say that's like kind of the bare minimum. I don't think I have a single client who makes less than that on a consistent basis. Sure, some months are more, some months are less, but no one really makes less than that within their first 6 months. The average dentist, I feel like in the GTA should probably be pulling in anywhere from 15 to 20 if you are like I said, just doing basic bread and butter resto. Usually, if you start to add some continuing education, you're doing a little bit of a broader scope of practice, you should get into that 20 to 25 range. I find that's the most healthy range for someone in the GTA or Calgary or even the GVA. That's what I'm used to seeing is probably the most, like, I would call that the average, or maybe even on the upper side of that average. 30 plus typically is you're doing like some pretty complex treatments. You're probably doing implants, maybe you're doing extraction, maybe you're doing a lot of cosmetic work. Maybe you're doing, I don't know, a lot of endo work and you're doing a lot of, like, okay, pain management. Someone comes in, I'm dealing with that. High ticket treatment, they're in and out. It's valuable. It's like
Mhm.
you're probably getting above that 30. I think I only have like a handful of clients who are associate general dentists who make more than 450 a year in the GTA, GVA, or like a major metropolitan city, above
Mhm.
450, and they're, I guess you would call them a super GP. They're doing like complex treatments only. They're not really doing any basic dentistry
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
I think that's the range. I don't think I have a single associate who makes more than 600 grand.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's kind of where you're capping out in major cities. If you're making 600 grand as an associate, it, it will not get better. I don't think you can
Yeah.
make more than like
No.
600 grand as an
Yeah.
associate. Rural, different ballgame. Rural, you are probably like, I had a call with a client recently. He went rural, and we were talking about whether it makes sense. And he was making less than 250 grand in the year. And I was like, I don't think it makes sense to even go rural. You should be well above 300, close
Mhm.
to that 400 range. It's kind of where you want to sit, 3 to 4. You could easily clear 4 in a rural community. Not easily. You're still gonna have to work hard. I say
Of
that,
course.
sparingly, but you could definitely clear more than that. You're probably going to get even close to that 4 to 500 range. I don't know if that's helpful, but that's kind of the different
100%.
ranges you're going to have as an associate. Clinic ownership, specialty dentistry, different sport, different ball game
Yeah.
altogether.
Yeah. So then I now bridging this, and by the way, that's exactly why I asked you because I have that same experience. I'm too nervous to ask anybody else, but I'm like, okay, the business of dentistry is a huge reason why I went into it. So I want to be more informed on how this will affect the implication of, for example, practice ownership or whatever it may be in the future. So now transitioning to practice ownership, I've also heard that the gap between, for example, rural and urban, which from what I'm understanding, the gap really isn't existent if you are for sure pursuing to the procedures you like or more complicated cases, it really isn't a gap. But for let's say a general dentist who's doing basic procedures, not too many implants, not too many whatever it may be, making about 200 per year or 250 in like London, Ontario, or whatever it may be. I've heard that the gap between rural and urban decreases when it comes to practice ownership, aka you'd be making similar amounts. But I'm just wondering, like, what are we talking here, and how much more do you make as a practice owner compared to as an associate?
Where I want to focus is less on the revenue,
Hmm.
because I can I have clients all the time come in, their revenue numbers are crazy. I don't even look at that. I don't care. I only look at it when I'm looking at an appraisal and we're buying a clinic, because for me, I need to see if there's enough meat on the bones. Forget the profitability for a second. Does this place even produce enough for us to go in and either boost production, cut costs, those kinds of
Hmm.
things? But when I'm actually looking at a clinic owner, the number one thing that we're looking at is like, what's your net after tax income or pre tax income? Like, what are you actually pulling out? And does that number factor in you paying yourself a 40% split? Because everyone can run a dental clinic and not pay themselves 40% and be like, oh, I produce $1 million a year. I should be making a $400,000 associate split on that, maybe 450 if I want a 45 split, but I pay myself 250 a year. So my profit looks way higher than it really is. I don't like looking at it that way. I'm like, what are you actually making at this practice? I like to see 20% margins off of revenue above and beyond your 40% split. That's a nice number to have. If you pull that number in, I think you're doing a very good job at your clinic. Most clinics, though, again, this depends on if you own the real estate or not. If you're in Toronto or if you're in, I don't know, Sudbury or something like that, it's like, it depends. Your margins are probably closer to like 10% is what I'm used to seeing above and beyond your 40% split. It's hard to put an actual number on it because every clinic is so different. It's
Hmm.
not like being an associate where I can be like, oh, this is probably what you're going to make, because it's almost entirely percentages. Because when you look at a clinic, yeah, you might have a clinic who produces $1 million and another one who produces 3, and their like actual net profit won't actually be that different depending on how that practice is run. So it really comes down to percentages of like, what are we actually yielding from these practices? And the key thing here is there's so many assumptions cooked in. Like, are you paying yourself associate? Do you own the real estate or not? Are you in a
Yeah.
metropolitan area or are you rural? In a rural community, your top line might not be that different. Or you might, yeah, your top line's probably not that different, but the tough thing in a rural community is it's so hard to get staff. Like, it's
Hmm.
so hard to attract staff. It's already hard in Toronto. Imagine you're in like a random part of the world, right? So I think that's kind of the biggest differences. I don't know if that answers the question to a
Yeah,
T, but
absolutely.
that's kind of the
Absolutely.
differences that I'm used to seeing.
Yeah, yeah. So then I'm just thinking like about the first few years of graduation. Looking at the landscape as it is right now, whether that be in Vancouver or in Ontario or anywhere, first few years after graduation, what kind of associate positions or just position in general should we be looking for? Shoot, like what makes a good market versus a bad market? Because everyone keeps saying London, like for example, I keep using London because that's where we're from. London's saturated. just like Toronto, to a less like London is essentially the baby brother of Toronto in that it's a lot less saturated, but it is still pretty saturated. And is that true, or is it more about like the practice and the people that you work with and than the city itself? Like, what makes a good versus bad market? How can you decide as an associate, okay, this is the perfect place to be?
I think it comes down to experience at the start of your life. It's like, at the end of the day, like I heard someone say this a long time ago, and this maybe even sounds naive, like saying it, but I'm like, competition doesn't matter if you're good at your craft.
Facts.
Like, it's that simple. Think about it. Every human you meet who has a set of teeth in their mouth and gums is a eligible patient. Your total addressable market is huge. And
Yeah.
Pareto principle applies to everything. 20%, I'm sure, of the dentists make 80% of the actual production. I'm sure that's actually the case because that Pareto principle applies everywhere in life. If you're skilled at your craft and you do a wonderful job in the chair or in the op and outside of the op, meaning your soft skills, if they're there, because that goes way understated. If you're good at both, you can connect those two, you will make money in any market, as far as I'm concerned.
Hmm.
What I would say to the younger people is like, I want to be mindful of some people need to come out of school and make money. They got student loans, they got parents who are relying on them. Like, there's a million different factors that come in. Maybe they're getting married in a year and they got to pay for that, or they got sick parents. Like I've seen every situation you could think of where people are like, I got to make money right now. I don't care. But I'm always like, just go where you can learn as much as you possibly can. Finding a mentor is like really hard to do. Finding a great, everyone says, oh, go find a great mentor, like they're falling off trees. It's like, no, great mentors are great dentists and they are busy themselves. So you almost, I always joke, like, you got to find gray hair or no hair. That's kind of what you're looking for. Someone on the end of the spectrum who's like, I've made my money. I'm here to impart wisdom. I want someone to do a good job. Focus on where you can earn, or sorry, focus on where you can learn rather than earn. And if you can't find that mentorship, at least try to get a lot of reps in. I think half the benefit of rural dentistry, setting the money aside, is you get to do a lot of treatments. Like,
Hmm.
you should be busy, and frankly, you should have to expand your scope of practice quicker than you probably would have in a like major city, obviously safely and within reason.
Hmm.
But that's the biggest thing. You want to learn. Like, half the clients who go away, even again, you probably will know this better than I do. I have always heard from people that Australia is a lot more hands-on than maybe you are in Canada.
Hmm. Yeah, I
And
know
these kind of
100%.
told me like, hey, I come back and I feel more comfortable than, let's say, my best friend who went to school, T or something.
Yeah, yeah,
Starting your career, just focus on how do I learn as much as I possibly can. Take a ton of CE. Try to find a mentor. If you can't find a mentor, try to find a busy clinic so you get a lot of reps in. So at least your hand speed is there or you feel more confident. It's like, focus on that rather than making money, because that is inevitably going to translate into you making more money over time.
yeah, yeah, amazing. And I honestly, just for everyone listening and watching, I've heard that from probably every single student I've asked, every single dentist I've asked, every single professor I've asked. And I just figured, you know what, let me see if a certified financial planner would think the same thing. Because naturally you'd think, you know what, maybe they're more interested in you making more money right away. But it seems like the answer consistently is find a mentor. Now I have a quick follow up, and but I also want to address the Australia versus Canada thing 100%. Like I remember as a pre-dental, the worry is that I need to get into Canadian school right now, or else I'm a failure. Blah 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 blah. Canadian schools are the best. I'm figuring out that American students, Australian students, are doing so many more practical cases than us. Didactically is a separate thing for sure, and that's 100% an argument that can stand. And I picked Western because I'm like, you know what has the most practical component, and yet still we're hearing that they're in sim earlier, they're doing more preps earlier. So if you're a pre-dental and you're worried about going to Australia or worried about going to the States, don't. Just worry about being the best dental student ever and coming back if you want to be in Canada and coming back and then just crushing it here. You will make that money back no matter what it is. I'm under that hope and belief that if you really set your mind to something, it doesn't matter where you study. All that matters is that once you graduate, you got the diploma, it's off to the races. Everyone's in the same race. So do your thing. But I have a question for you because you mentioned the rural, and it's just a quick question before moving on to the next. So my biggest contention, and I'm pretty sure I won't go rural at this point, but my biggest contention is people always said it's experience, it's experience, it's experience in rural. But my biggest fear was always building bad habits because it would be hard per se to find a mentor rurally compared to an urban center like here, where I feel like it'd be a little bit easier to find a mentor because oftentimes from my experience, the people who are sending people rural, like you're kind of there alone and you're doing a bunch of cases for sure, but you might be building habits in, for example, Manitoba, where it might be a little bit less strict, whereas Ontario, the RCSO, it's like probably the most strict guidelines possible. So you don't want to build necessarily those bad habits. So how would you navigate that or recommend that a dentist navigates that?
think it's almost like the ideal circumstance is you're at a very busy clinic in like a metropolitan area, like a Toronto
Mhm,
or a Vancouver. That is
mhm.
the ideal.
Okay.
But there's limited space. So it's like it's almost like the peak is you find a mentor at a well-run, like great clinic with that mentor has like maybe the scope of practice that you are interested in. Like sure, maybe you're not a specialty practice, but that general dentist does a lot of implants and you really want to get into that space. Or they do a lot of, endo work and you want to get into it. That's the pinnacle. That's what you want. But
Yeah,
not everyone's gonna get that position.
yeah.
And that's when it's like, okay, the next best option, I guess, is rural. Because it's
Okay.
like, okay, yes, you maybe don't have someone watching over your shoulder, but you at least get a lot of reps in and you learn sounds terrible, but you learn by doing.
Yeah.
You learn to mess up some cases. I
Yeah.
think the other thing to help that is never like take a lot of CE. A lot of it. I'll tell you right now, I'm an investment guy. The number one investment at the start of the career, like everyone's like, what should I buy? And I'm like, CE courses.
Mhm.
Take them twice, I don't care. Get really good at it because 'cause you're not gonna get good at something on a weekend course. It's like reading a book. You read it once, but the second time you read it, you pick up a lot more out of it, or you hear a song, and the second time you listen to that song, you pick up on lyrics that you didn't hear the first time. Take
Yeah.
the course twice. No one ever
Yeah.
does that. It's like, get really, really good at something. Your mentor might be the person running that CE course. It doesn't have to be someone that isn't involved in your practice right now. And there's a ton of amazing dentists who are running amazing CE courses and they're so willing to like give their time. So I'm like, if you can't find a mentor in your city, find one online for like lack of better terms.
Yeah, yeah. And so the thing about CE just reminded me of something because, for example, Dental Corp is an organization that offers free CE. Now, switching gears from maybe CE specifically to DSOs, and before we dive in, I want to preface something like everyone in dental school has heard don't talk to Dental Corp, avoid DSOs at all costs. But honestly, I just want to say this. I've only had great experiences with them. People like, for example, Dental Corp specifically, people like Morgan, Dr. Gary Glassman have been incredible supportive. They like genuinely are invested in helping dental students and new grads in like the events we host. So I still think like I'm still thinking I'm going to go to private practice, but and it's too early to tell really. But I think it's important for all the listeners to get into every conversation with an open mind because you never know what opportunities might come from it and you're going to hear a million things about a million different DSOs. Please just formulate your own idea and opinion on it. Anyways, for anyone who might not know, what does that model look like, both for the perspective of working for one and starting your own, and how much capital realistically does it take to start a DSO or even a multi practice model?
So I'll break this up. I'm really glad you brought up DSOs because one thing that's like, I guess, the elephant in the room that I didn't talk about, if you can't get into a private practice in a major city and get busy and get the mentorship, DSOs are there. And they're like the number one thing a DSO is probably good at is getting butts in chairs and making sure that the operations are streamlined because they have
Hmm.
economies of scale, they have, ongoing systems, they make sure everything is taken care of for you other than the actual dentistry. So it's like, yeah, a DSO will probably let you get your reps in. They'll probably provide you some form of mentorship, maybe, and they pay for a lot of continuing education if you can't pay for it yourself. Now, it is tax deductible, but that still means you still have to come up with the money out of pocket. So if you want like CE that is very readily available and they promote you to take it, yeah, go talk to a DSO. I actually really like when clients work at a private practice and a DSO when they first start, and then they get to try both and see what world is best for them.
Hmm.
Now, I will say right now, I'm like a little bit scared of DSOs from a long-term standpoint.
Of course.
Just because before I started working with dentists, we used to work with like all healthcare professionals, and optometry had a very similar consolidation wave as dentistry. I would argue their wave is maybe 20, 30 years ahead.
Hmm.
Optometrists today, I don't have many clients, but I remember when I was kind of like moving fully to like, okay, I'm just working with dentists. It was really hard for them to run private practices. Like, they can't really compete with Specsavers. You get, like, free eye exams. Imagine cleanings were free. How are you
Yeah.
as a private practice owner gonna compete with a free cleaning? You're not going to. And what feeds your entire practice? The hygiene department. That brings everyone in. That's what gets them through the door so that you can actually diagnose and make treatment plans because no
Yeah.
one's coming unless they're in pain, right? Where they need a
Yeah.
cosmetic treatment. Fear is that long term DSOs are going to wipe out the small guy. And I am like a capitalist through and through. I don't necessarily like monopolies.
Hmm.
Now, it's a double sided coin. Like, we could argue that, oh, Amazon has done more wrong than good, but we all love Amazon. It's so damn
Yeah.
convenient.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
even go
Yeah.
to the mall anymore. Everything I buy is from Amazon. So it's like, yeah, I fear DSOs from that long-term standpoint. But today, it's like they're a good place to go and learn and get your reps in. And typically, my experience with clients who've worked there has been like, I'm able to do kind of what I want to do. They say they don't have production quotas. They kind of do. It's like,
Yeah,
and the production quotas are like, hey, if you're not hitting these numbers, probably something wrong. But they're still there. There's still like a undertone of like, hey, you should be producing. It might not be explicit. And like, I'm
of
sure
course.
someone at Dental Corp or 123 would say, hey, that's not the case. I'm just saying what my clients have felt.
Yeah, yeah.
But it is a good place to get the reps in. I just realized I went on a tangent. Did I even answer your question?
No, no. So like now speaking, that's essentially working for a DSO as an associate. And which, by the way, I completely agree, especially about the optometry. I used to be an optometry guy. I was going to go in optometry, and that Specsavers thing is part of the reason that turned me away, as well as
Interesting.
the insurance and everything. And it's funny how dentistry is kind of leading toward a similar path to
That's
optometry.
my fear.
But
Yeah.
anyways, now that's the associate side. So what about starting your own DSO? How much really goes into maybe somebody who wants to really open, like for example, I'm not sure if you're aware of like like there's a Shergan model, Rondinelli. These are big players in Ontario and in London. And so they're, I don't know if we technically consider them DSOs, but like where it
Mini
like
would say, yeah.
exactly. So like what goes into that? And like whether it be collaborative ownership or shared management structure, like how does one start that type of mini DSO and what goes into it compared to like working for Dental Corp?
It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
In the best ways and in the worst ways. It goes back to what do you want? Anyone who runs one of those models is no longer a dentist.
Hmm.
You are a entrepreneur. You are the CEO of a a small organization. And like part of me, I'll give you my own example. When I started running White Coat Financial, some days I'm like, I don't even feel like an advisor anymore. I end up being the CEO of the thing that I built. And you know, it's the same thing in dentistry. You're gonna have less time with your patients and all that stuff. You're gonna spend more time looking at spreadsheets and running KPIs and seeing what actually works. That's like what your life turns into, but the process of getting there is really hard because obviously no one buys dental clinics in cash. You are getting bank financing, typically 100% financing on your first one. Even on your second clinic, like maybe you have enough profit from that first one where you can put a down payment on the second one, but you're still getting some form of leverage. Banks are getting tighter on how much they lend to you. You are starting to cap out around five practices yourself. I would argue four to five is all you as Moony wanting to start four clinics, five clinics. You're probably going to cap out there yourself. Are you a mini DSO at five clinics? Nowhere close. So what do you have to do at that point? You either look at private equity or you start getting partners that are
Hmm.
other dentists. So you
Hmm.
start going, hey, me and you are 50-50 owners. You're getting the loan though. I'm just sort of here in the background. Maybe I'm providing, economies of scale. I'm maybe providing you capital, but the bank won't give me more money. They'll give you more money as a young associate. We're partners now. So you, like, as the owner of that organization, have a ton of partners now all of a sudden. Some of them are dentists, some of them might be private equity, where they give you the money and you're paying them back in some sort of residuals. And maybe they don't actually own the shares because there's very strict rules around that with the
Hmm.
RCDSO. They have to be a dental or whatever the case
Yeah.
is, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it gets very complicated. There's a lot of debt. The best way I can explain it to everyone is I've given this analogy before. It comes down to weightlifting.
Yeah.
If you are bench pressing just a bar and it hits your chest, you're going to be fine. You bench press a plate, it hits your chest, it might hurt, you'll
Yeah.
be okay. Two plates, you're cracking some ribs. Three
Yeah.
plates, four plates, you will die.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the weight just gets so much higher, but the muscles get bigger and bigger. You
Yeah.
look better and better,
Yeah.
hypothetically. The weights get. It's the same thing with a mini DS. The problems get bigger and bigger, but your margins don't get better, but your profit gets bigger.
Hmm.
10% one clinic versus 10% on 10 clinics is a very different number, even though the margin stayed the same. So
Yeah.
it's just that old adage, more money, more
More
problems.
problems.
So what does it take to get there? It takes a lot of teamwork and it takes a lot of debt, if I was to put it simply. And it
Yeah.
takes a lot of mental bandwidth to do it. You'd have to have a very forgiving partner. Maybe you don't have children, or you'd have to be like the most type A organized person in the world and delegate a ton to really make it work.
So, G, following up to that question, and I'm not going to ask how much you bench, even though you brought up benching, because we'll keep this financial. Giving you the context of my family and my situation. So, I'm in second year dental school. My brother's in fourth year dental school, and my younger sister's in first year dental school. Older sister just graduated, and now she's first year dental practice, and she's commuting back between, I think it's either Windsor or Sarnia and London. So eventually we'll have essentially four of the closest partners that could possibly be there. With that being said, they're going to see this and be like, yo, is Mooney trying to make me do a DSO? That is not the case at all. I'm just trying to like explore. Like, and I also have like very close family friends and like friends that are mentors to me who I've worked with, like, for example, this past summer, who I'd love to work with, and I'd be 100% confident working with them in the future. When you have that, like, for example, six, five close dentists as a network, does it make it now easier? Like, where is the next, like, family, I guess, is the tightest bond there is, and it feels like it's the best type of people to go into business with. But at the same time, it's tricky because business and family, business and friends. What are your thoughts on that? Like, what would you recommend for some? What would you recommend for my family? Is should we all open one just
Yeah.
large clinic and call it my mom's clinic and have like a nice little wholesome vibe, or would you advise like separate practices and collaborating in other ways?
Hate that this is my answer, but it's what do you want? What do you
Yeah,
want out of life?
yeah,
Is it easier to go and become a mini DSO as a family? Hell yeah. You got what, four or
yeah,
five dentists in the family? You could
yeah.
each buy four practices, let's say, with bank financing without bringing in other partners. And you put it all under one umbrella and you maybe have one common name throughout and it becomes a well known brand. Like, yeah, you could definitely do that. And you guys could all share, hey, these are standard operating procedures at every single clinic. Here are the floor plans for every clinic. Here's how every clinic is going to look. And they're all going to be identical. Like, you guys could do that because you have such a close family, probably in a partnership there. You could also do that with like five best friends at a dental school who love each other like brothers. Like, like it's possible, but it's so much easier with family, I would argue. And with family, you have a lot more leeway with like you could snap on your sister or brother and they're still gonna love you.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
So, like, yeah, it's easier from that
Okay,
standpoint. Obviously, family can get complicated and, family, I would argue, always comes first over the business, and you never want
100%.
the business to get involved or, like, come over the family, but I feel like if everyone's on the same page about it and everything is legally documented, really, really important. It's very easy to skip over details because 'cause you're like, "Ah, we're all family." It's like, no, everyone has their own lawyers. Everyone should do everything legit. I think
Hmm.
in those circumstances, like, yeah, you guys are, I would argue, perfectly primed to go and scale and become like a mini DSO if you wanted to.
Yeah, which by once again, I want to reiterate.
If you ever wanted to, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because it's just one of those things. I want to make sure like we explore every avenue possible and really end up like landing on what's best for each one of us individually, not what's best for me and not what's best. Once again, what we want out of this all individually, and hoping like that makes sense all together. But one last little question on DSOs, and then I got to skip over. Otherwise, people are going to be talking to me about DSOs around the halls for the rest of the year. So like I know the whole, so when people hear DSO, like it's scary because it's like a conglomerate, it's corporatized, whatever it may be. But so is it like, is it an issue when you keep it under? So like for example, the Ronelli or Sugar models, for example, I don't know too much about these models. All I know is that they're like I've heard good and amazing and bad about both, and I've never met them either one of them in person. But I just know that they're really business savvy and they own a bunch of crypt practices, and I don't think they're all their practices fall under the same name. Is that part of the business? Is that like part of the idea of like you don't want it to fall under it or no?
No, you could name them all completely different names, and honestly, you could actually have it, like, private where it's owned by a holding company and no one even knows it's your practice unless you tell people it's your practice,
Hmm.
or, like, have it owned under different names. I just mean, like, if you wanted to really become a mini DSO and call it
Yeah,
Moony.Dentistry and, like, have, like, 20 locations in Ontario, you could do that if you wanted to.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Your trade name could be different than the actual corporation's name, right?
yeah.
So they could all have different corporate names, but, it's
True.
all Moony.Dentistry, but yeah, so you can
Okay.
name it however you want, and you can make them all different if you wanted to.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now switching gears from DSO, um, let's just talk about one last thing about practice ownership, timing, and then I have like a rapid fire round question where it's going to be essentially I have how many questions I have? I have like five questions, and I want to hear like quick first thing that comes to mind. But this one I want to hear long. I want to hear the classic answer, and it's about how early do you think students or dentists should start thinking about ownership? It's too soon to plan during school, or should we start having those conversations right away with mentors and advisors? Like I know somebody who had one who purchased a practice like by way of his wife who was a dentist, and he did it great, and he did it while he was in fourth year dental school, also an internationally trained dentist for some context. But how early is too early? Because I noticed you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, I I will say those people who start practices right away typically are an anomaly. They might be international grads where they practiced in Iran for 5 years and then they came here. So like, dude, I'm already like well equipped to run a practice. I ran a practice for 2 years before I came here, whatever the case is. Let's exclude those people. Let's talk about the average dental student who
Okay.
did their undergrad, they did a BSc, then they go to dental school, and they've never worked at a practice before other than maybe shadowing or something like that. I really do feel strongly that you should wait at least 2 or 3 years.
Mhm.
It might not take you the full 2 or 3 years. Maybe you feel like, hey, I'm proficient, my hand skills are there, my scope of practice is wide enough. But I do feel pretty strongly 2, 3 years is usually a minimum time frame I would recommend. Part of it's because, yes, you want to get better as a dentist. The other part of it is you want to find out what you like doing and not like doing. And you also ideally want to work as an associate, ideally in a few different clinics, because you could see what this clinic is doing well and what this one's not doing so well. And what do I want to replicate? And what are some mistakes that this owner is making that I think I would want to improve in my own practice? I think like that's probably number one. You're getting paid to learn because
Mhm.
you need to learn at the start of dentistry. I think the other reason is frankly, dental clinics are really expensive, man. Like
Yeah.
really expensive. And the call I was on right before this podcast, I had 4 calls with this client and like we dug through the numbers in depth on this practice to the point where we were like drawing out how many hygienists are there and how many dentists are there. And then I was cross referencing that because I've never stepped into this practice, cross referencing that with how many operatories there are and how many chairs there are. And then like literally making like a bingo chart of like what operatories are open on what days and could we put someone in there. And like
Mhm.
literally doing that, and then me talking to this client, be like, okay, here you can work this day and this day and this day, and then prorating how much he's going to produce and what impact that would have on, like we got way into the weeds of it. And you have to do that these days when it comes to buying a clinic, because what ended up happening in that specific situation is he was looking at it, he's like, I'm not going to really make any money in this clinic. Like I'm going to
Mhm.
literally make less than I make as an associate in this practice. How is the existing clinic owner making money here? I was like, you're forgetting they don't have a loan anymore on this practice. They don't
Right.
have a $2.5 million loan on this practice. Take that loan payment out, all of a sudden this clinic's very profitable.
Yeah.
Um, and so how this relates back to starting a practice, you to a degree need to have a pretty wide scope of practice or a specialty scope of practice. I have some clients who love cosmetic work. I would argue they're like a mini prostodontist at this stage, or like, that's like all they do is cosmetic stuff. It's like their practice, when they're walking into that practice, they're looking through the patient charts and going, okay, I could do a veneer here, I could do this here. Okay, we're referring this much out to ortho. How many of those cases can I keep in house? Half the game plan these days when you're buying a clinic is how much can I keep in house? If you talk
Yeah.
to any specialist, they're all saying, man, this is BS. I'm
Yeah.
only getting the really hard cases that no one wants to do anymore because the general dentists have been forced to increase their scope of practice because of cost of living and the cost of clinics going up. It's
Yeah.
just that simple. Yes, some people do it out of interest, but half the people are doing like, yo, I got to make more money. I need an extra 200 grand a year. Okay, let me start learning at endo or something like that.
Yeah.
That's why I always say you need to practice for a while and get good at dentistry and expand your scope and find out what you like doing and not like doing, so that when it comes time for you to buy a clinic, forget a startup for a second. When it comes time to buy a clinic, you could look at that practice and go, can I, number one, take over everything that this principal dentist is doing? Unless there's associates who can cover the gaps where I maybe can't do those things. And then more importantly, that's just going to help me break even. What referrals can I keep in house?
Mhm.
And then can I in some other areas of the practice? And so it's like, that's why you got to practice for a while.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like you want to pay off that line of credit. You don't want to have to pull a huge payment out of your corporation to cover your day-to-day expenses and your mortgage and your line of credit and all these things, because that's less money that stays inside the practice. So it's like they almost go hand in hand, you know?
Of course. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I have clients who started like they started practices 1 or 2 years out and they're doing great. But I would argue those guys and girls are an anomaly. Like they didn't have student loans. Maybe they still live at home. They
Yeah.
only need to pay them 80 grand a year. Great. I can start a clinic because I don't need that much money. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
those kinds of things is when you see someone starting a practice right away, just know that they're probably got a unique situation and most people, average dental student can't afford to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much. Now we're gonna go into those quick fire questions. But before that, and before we conclude, where can people find you? Where can people learn more about what you're doing? Plug those sources. We want to know more about you.
Yeah, Instagram, like I have a TikTok page. I don't sign into any of that. Even
Yeah.
Instagram, half the time I don't sign in. I
Yeah.
tell my team to post it. But Instagram at the Dentist Advisor. Dr. Ricky Hamami and I have a podcast called the Dental Journeys Podcast. You
Amazing
recommend checking
podcast,
it
by the
out.
way.
You should definitely have Ricky on as well. He had a pretty cool thing that he just did, and I think it'll be cool to have him on the pod. Those are probably the two places. And then other than that, text and email. Like it's
Yeah,
just Gurtej. The website is whitecopefinancial.ca, and my phone number, I'll drop it to you in the show notes. And text,
yeah.
email, or Instagram DM is usually the best way to get in touch with me.
Amazing. Okay, let's go into these rapid fire questions now. Okay, now we're looking for one, and as much as like I know these are all intricate, we're
I already
looking
know
at
I'm gonna give you like a paragraph. Yeah.
okay. What is one piece of financial advice you wish every dental student knew?
Investing doesn't make you wealth. Investing doesn't make you rich. It makes you wealthy. It's like your income is what makes you actually rich and gets you to that point.
Oh my gosh, I want to ask more. I want to ask a follow up, but we'll keep going through these. And if you guys want to ask a follow up, go reach out to him at the sources and get that follow up from him. What is the best investment a young dentist can make, and does it have to be money related?
I think continuing education and then their health. It's like you got to take care of yourself as a dentist.
Well, okay. First 2 years and 3 years after graduation. Interested in practice ownership, MBA, yes or no?
MBAs are a waste of time, a waste of money.
Biggest financial red flag in a job offer.
Let's see. I'm just thinking of what my clients do. I'd say probably like a 45 split out the gate.
Mm.
Something's usually wrong with the clinic if there's a 45 split out the gate.
And what's one thing you'd tell your 25-year-old self about money, if you could?
Money only solves money problem.
Last question. If you had to sum up financial success for dentists in one sentence, what would it be?
The ability to do nothing for a week or two.
Okay, that's a wrap for today's episode of Moony Talks. Huge thank you to G for joining me and sharing his story. Make sure to follow him at the Whiteco Financial and the Dentist Advisor and check out what he's up to. I'll link everything in the description. If you made it this far, first off, thank you. It means a lot. And if you enjoyed this one, make sure to hit the follow, whether you're listening, drop a quick rating or review, and share it with someone who you think would vibe with the conversation. You can always keep up with me on Instagram or TikTok at Moony.Dentistry. And of course, if there's a topic guest you'd love to hear for on the show, shoot me a message, and I'm definitely going to reach out to Ricky. So thank you, G. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and keep the conversation going. Thank you, guys. Now, G, before you head out, we're just going to stop recording, and it's going to take like about 1 minute to upload or whatever, maybe.